And once again, by being that type of leader, someone that people feel they can come to when there's issues, they feel they want to go to this one person because he's exuding that leadership aspects. By honoring that level of trust with that person, you just keep improving that level of respect, mutual trust, and the strength of that relationship indefinitely to a point where that relationship will stand the test of time any day. And that's basically how friendships end up lasting very, very long, and how families and marriages end up lasting very, very long as well.
Hey everyone, welcome to the RLT podcast, where we share some real life tools, tips, and tricks to help you not only discover, but also reach your ultimate goals. What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to a fresh episode of the Real Life Tips podcast. This is episode number 54. I'm your host, Mano.
Joined by Leon as usual. Boys and girls, grab a seat, grab a coffee, get comfortable. If you are driving, keep your eyes on the road. Welcome back to this new and improved, in my opinion, short format of the Real Life Tips podcast. Let us know what you think of the new 30-minute episodes. I think it's awesome. I think so far the feedback's been quite positive. Please let us know. We want to make sure that we obviously bring to you what you want. And we do listen. We do obviously read through every single comment, every single email, every single thing that people share with us. All 5 listeners of you out there. But yeah, this is another really cool topic. Something I think that's quite interesting. Myself, having been in a couple of leadership roles, etc. before. So, Martin, lead us into the topic. What are we going to talk about today?
Yep, and with that said, I think it's good. Let's get straight into it, Leon. Today we're going to talk about being a leader, but in your own personal life. And what does that mean? And what are the benefits of that? All right. And how do we distinguish between just being someone who dictates? Because we've covered this in the past, right? Leaders versus managers, right? But on a personal topic, I've been wanting to cover this for such a long time, is how can I become a leader in my own personal life? Now that I know that there's a difference between someone taking charge and just dictating what needs to get done, right? And being a douchebag, let's just call it as it is, right? Versus someone who can be an inspiration, a mentor, helping those around you. And what are the benefits of that? And how can we achieve it? What does that look like? And that's what I really want to get into here today, Leon.
Yeah, exactly. So as you mentioned, we've talked about leadership in the past and the way that I perceive leadership. And I mentioned in that episode, when I started my first leadership role several years back, I literally spent the better part of half of a year reading every single leadership book I could find. So I would consider myself having quite a good understanding of what it entails to be a leader. Now, for those of you that are maybe ranking towards leadership or you're working towards leadership, a very nice place to actually practice leadership is in your personal life, is to maybe look in your family environment amongst your friends. And practice being a leader there, not in the sense of, hey man, I'm going to be your leader and I'm telling you what to do. No. Not at all. That's not what we're talking about here. We are talking about an empathetic leader, a leader that stands alongside his crew and not in front of his crew. Someone that can obviously have a lot of courage and they've got guts and they are willing to take the baton and take the people through the flames. But they're not going to stand at the back with a whip and crack the whip and tell them charge through the flames head first. And it's really interesting how some of the aspects and some of the qualities that a leader carries is 100% reflectable or transferable to your personal life. For example, a leader needs to understand how to apply a lot of self-control. All right. Now imagine you, Manu, we have heard many episodes of you and your girlfriend, right? So you've got a girlfriend. How are you? Let's make this an interview. How are you at handling self-control when something goes off the rails? That's one area you can even start practicing, you know?
It is. Absolutely. I think we can all improve in that area. I'm fairly good with like holding my temper. I've never really been an aggressive person or anything. So I'm very good at that, but it all depends on the situation, right? And the circumstances. But I really have...
I put you on the spot, sorry.
I think we all have. No, you did, right? You did, but that's good. That's good. Absolutely. I think in some cases, you are confronted with a situation and you have to choose your words carefully, right? Because that could be extremely damaging to the relationship. That being in my own personal relationship, romantic relationships that I've entered into in the past, right? But that could be in my personal relationships, in my friends, my family, right? They, someone could bring up something that goes against my very core, my values that what I believe in, right? And it almost feels like they attack me, and I have to control myself in that situation, right?
Exactly.
And that takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of discipline, right? And absolutely, that's
and awareness. You need to be super aware of what's now happening so that you don't go off the rails.
And you got to think into the future. You kind of have to play the scenario out in a couple of split seconds before you respond, right? And that's one of the beauties of the qualities that, and I think the most beautiful example that you've just brought up, or one of the qualities that you've touched on, right, is practicing that self-control, being able to look beyond just this moment, the words that are flying back and forth, but play this scenario out in the future and see the long-term effects of that, right? Do you care much about that person? What sort of impact do you want to have on their lives? And the one thing that I'm thinking about, Leon, is that when we say building relationships and having a relationship with someone around you, whether that is in your personal life or in your professional life, right? It doesn't work when you're dictating, when you're losing your temper, when you're acting based on emotion and not thinking rationally about the situation. That's not how you build relationships. You build relationships by forming trust with individuals. How do you form trust with individuals, right? It's by showing them that you are there to help them, to assist them, that you show up when they actually need your assistance. When they don't have anyone around them, you're giving and sticking out your hand and helping them. And that's how you build the relationships. You cannot build those relationships if you're dictating. You cannot build those relationships when you are constantly looking down on someone.
Yes. A relationship is something that needs to be mutually voluntary. You can't tell someone to be your friend, can you?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell your wife to love you. You can't tell your kids they have to love you because you're their parent. I mean, I'm sure there are parents out there applying that level of parenting, but that's obviously despicable and deplorable. But at the end of the day, even in that circumstance, if you are a husband to a wife, you need to be the torch bearer once again. You need to have that self-control so that if something goes wrong, there's nothing as sexy in the world to my wife as me taking control of a difficult scenario in our lives. As saying, listen, I can now see we've got my troops rallied, we've got my kids, we've got my wife, we are standing behind this giant of a problem, and I start dissecting it, and I'm assertive, and I'm definitive, and I make decisions, and I create plans, and we attack this thing, and we overcome it. And again, I'm going to say there's nothing as sexy as that to most women, I think. Is a man being able to take charge, take control, but be there with everyone, share the plan, share the ideas, teach them how your thought process is working. That way you are teaching your kids how to work through pain or difficulty in the future, etc.
Being a role model. And I'm so glad that you're mentioning that, Leon, because that actually touches on something that I feel is a key to being a leader, right? Is stepping up in situations where the follower in that situation won't necessarily have enough resources, enough energy to deal with that specific situation, right? So you have to step up, and that's what a leader does, is it not?
Yes.
Even in a professional scenario, right, where we said that a manager is there to dictate, but a leader is there to say, what can I help you with to achieve greatness? What can I help you with to achieve these goals? In our personal lives, I feel that is such an important point as well.
And that's where you already touch on the right thing. You just asked questions there. A leader asks questions. He doesn't tell what to do. It's very easy, again, in your personal life, if you're in a marriage situation or you are in a relationship like yourself and your girlfriend, it's very easy to just bark commands and tell and dictate, right? How long do you think that relationship is truthfully going to make it?
Exactly.
Yes, you might get through today's session, but in the background, the girl is crushed and she's already talking to her mother about you, etc. And she's busy planning a way out. She's not going to be happy about that. And that's the whole thing. A leader asks questions. They make it a forum of communication. They don't just say, listen, it's my way or the highway. Because imagine when I got kids, I just keep barking the old school way of, I'm the father of the house. I'm the king of the throne. This is my domain. I don't ask, I tell.
Exactly.
Does that really work? I'm sure that's how many houses, my parents and them probably grew up like that, I'm sure. I've heard the horror stories. None of them talk about that and say that that was a nice environment to grow up in, or that grew love between them and that parent. It detracted from them ever having a proper relationship with that parent, in fact. So at the end of the day, a leader has specific qualities. And like I said, what I kind of like is, if you are an aspiring leader, practice at home, because these principles can be practiced at home without anyone's knowledge. You can't really go to your wife and say, listen, I'm going to practice on you for my leadership role but you can actually indirectly start seeing, how assertive are you? How good are you at dissecting a problem, coming up with definitive action to resolve that problem? How good are you at communicating with your wife to say, listen, this is the problem. What can you bring to the table? What do I need to do to help you to get this if she's got a problem in her life? My wife comes to me all the time with issues that she carries. And then I help her. I kind of give her the necessary help so that she solves the problem at the end of the day by herself, right? And by that, you are again empowering that person for the next time when that happens. They already know what to do, right? There's a lot of dependability on goodwill when it comes to leadership. If you've earned someone's trust and respect through good leadership, the rest of the whole relationship relies on a lot of goodwill. It means that people want to work with you and you want to work with them. There's mutual goodwill. Nothing needs to, all the explaining of why you need to trust me, all the proving of that I'm worth my weight in gold has gone and passed. We can now move forward purely working on goodwill of, I trust you, I fully know that you are equipped to do the job, and you do mutually me. And that's what's so wonderful about being a leader in your personal environment.
I like that. I like that because what you're saying is coming from, you're talking about just looking at words, the words that you choose, the words that you use, right? Asking those questions, understanding that you need to be a support pillar for that person as opposed to just trying to force them into a specific direction is the one part of it. But the other big important part that I think we need to touch on is actions, right? Actions that speak louder than words in any scenario, in any case, right? And this is where leadership really comes into play, is what actions are you performing? And I think this touches on leniency as well and compromise, Leon, because what happens is that sometimes you're going to have to be the leader in your household. You're going to have to be the leader to help and support others and be that pillar of strength for those in need, right? In your close friend circles, in your family, right? In your household in specific as well. But at times you're going to need that pillar as well. And that's where you're going to have to lean on your spouse, on your significant other, on those closest to you as well. So saying that, a couple of things, right? Number one, looking at the action side of things is, are you doing what you're saying, right? Are you sticking to your word? Are you being true to that person or making good on your promises and actually executing that on a consistent basis? Number one. Number two, are you compromising yourself to support them, right? Because there will be times that she's going to have a tough day. She didn't get to everything. She didn't get to do the washing. She didn't get to do the cleaning or the cooking and stuff. I'm going to have to step up and I'm going to have to proactively know that today is going to be a tough day for her. She's got a lot on her plate. I'm going to go do the dishes. By the time she gets home, everything is done. I'm going to start cooking. I'm going to start cleaning, or I'm going to do the washing or the laundry, because I want to take something off of her plate. Even though we've had a sort of routine going here that I take care of the cars and I take care of the finances and I do all of the planning and stuff. That's my domain. I'm going to have to leap into her domain at some point as well and compromise for myself as well.
Yeah, I mean, what you've just described there is what we can call a team, right? At the end of the day, a team at home and a team at work is not that much different. On paper, they resemble and they carry the same characteristics. A good leader is someone that has walked in the shoes of the people that he's leading, right? A good leader is not someone that just gets put in place to tell you what to do, like a boss maybe does. So, for example, if you've got friends, family, kids, etc., you cannot really share empathy with them if you've not been where they've been. And in those cases, again, we come back to the team thing. Maybe you haven't been where they've been, but sharing just empathy and having them maybe sometimes educate and teach you about their experiences. Just because I've led 2 or 3 teams before doesn't mean I knew anything more than those guys or girls. Yeah. At the end of the day, they taught me a lot in my leadership as well. I was able to bring a team together and get them to follow a common goal, etc. But from a skills perspective, they had me outskilled many times, 10 to 1. And that's the same thing in your personal life. You could have empathy in your team, in your home team, in your friendship team, in your family team. You could have empathy, and purely by that, it means that sometimes they are going to come to you with a scenario or a problem that you've never ever experienced, and you don't have all the answers, but you are that person that they come to. And that alone already means that between the 2 or 3 or 4 of us in this group, we are going to find a way to resolve this. We're going to be assertive. You're going to help them dissect the problem perhaps into smaller bits and pieces so that you know what you're working with and what to do in order to get that problem resolved. But that empathy is going to be there. It's not sympathy. It's not looking at someone and saying, oh, shame. It's living in that moment of powerlessness or soreness or heartache that they've got and sitting in the pain with them and working through that issue with them, even though you sometimes don't know the answer. Maybe it's a really dreaded illness that the person befalls, unfortunately. A leader is someone that goes and sits and cries with that person, And that's what you do at work as well. If your team is suffering, you are suffering as a leader. You have to share the burdens of the team equally amongst all the members of the team. And once again, by being that type of leader, someone that people feel they can come to when there's issues, they feel they want to go to this one person because he's exuding that leadership aspects. By honoring that level of trust with that person, you just keep improving that level of respect, mutual trust, and the strength of that relationship indefinitely to a point where that relationship will stand the test of time any day. And that's basically how friendships end up lasting very, very long, and how families and marriages end up lasting very, very long as well.
Because you're building meaningful relationships, not just relationships, but meaningful relationships that are sustained over years and decades, because even in your friend groups, once you become that leader, or once you step down, once you sacrifice your own comfort to aid and assist someone else, that's when you start building the trust. That's when they start looking up to you.
Correct.
That's when they start looking up to you as a mentor and start following in the footsteps naturally, as opposed to you forcing them to follow in those footsteps. Absolutely love 100%. That, Leon. So we've covered a couple of things here, right? We said that it's extremely important on the words that you choose, how you choose those words, how you use them. Do not dictate, but to rather support, to be that supporting structure for someone else. We also talked about actions, right? Have your actions match your words, right? If you say that you're going to have to do something, or that you will take care of something, do that, right? Show it in your actions. Sometimes actions speak louder than words. So as opposed to even saying that, you know what, babe, today I will sort out the kids. I will sort out, the lunches for tomorrow. I will sort out dinner for tonight and everything. As opposed to saying that, just doing that shows that you are there for them. You're supporting them. You're playing the leader role in that scenario, right? We also touched on something extremely important, is that you cannot always be the leader. Sometimes you yourself will need someone to look up to.
Yes.
You yourself will
Correct.
need to follow someone at some point, right? Or lean on someone else's skills, because we can't be great at everything in life, right? So touching on that as well is extremely important, because then you know when to let go. You know that you can't take control of every single situation. Sometimes you're going to have to look to your wife. You're going to have to look to your spouse. You're going to have to look to your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your siblings to support you during certain situations as well. So knowing when to compromise, knowing when to let go, and sticking to that integrity. Absolutely enjoyed it, Leon. I think it is time for us to head into the real life
tips. That was different.
Really cool. Yeah, I like that. That almost sounded like like Super Mario or something, you know, those old Nintendo games. I really dig it. For today, guys, here it is, Leon. I'm going to put you back on the spot because you come from leadership roles and you've got so much to say on this topic. Please hit us with a couple of tips for us to actually start implementing this in our lives. We've spoken about this a million times. Knowing something is not good enough. It's knowing how to apply that where the power really lies. How can we apply this to our lives?
100%. So again, I'm going to bring one tip into the equation, but it's a bit layered, right? So just bear with me. But basically, what it comes down to is that not all leaders are born. I know there's a saying that guy is a natural born leader or something like that, right? Not all leaders are born, let me tell you. When I was in school, I didn't lead much. When I came into the work environment, the dynamic shifted for me and I started leaning towards leadership because I just enjoyed it suddenly. Being a leader is a combination of soft skills, but you aren't necessarily already embracing or exuding all of those soft skills. So what I'm trying to get to here is skill up on leadership. Go get yourself books, go get yourself materials, go and understand what the characteristics of a good leader is. I did that and it improved my leadership skills like 100-fold. I had a general idea of rallying a team and talking to them in a social/business environment, gaining their trust. Some of that came natural for me, but definitely not all of it. So before practicing this at home so that you can be better at it at work, or the opposite maybe apply, make sure that you have an understanding what leadership is all about. Go get a couple of books, get one book maybe just about leadership. Go get the Simon Sinek stuff. He just explains it in such a way that anyone can understand it, right? And he gives like a plethora of examples on how that punches back to life or circles back to real life, etc. So my only tip is that not all leaders are born. If you find yourself and you say, but I'm a new employee somewhere and I have a nilly-willy little job, that does not mean you can't be a leader. Go and find out what leadership is all about and practice that at home. And that's pretty much all the tips in the world that I can share today, is that you are all leaders. Anyone can be a leader. I don't think it's a set of skills that only certain people have. It's something that can definitely be taught. And everyone's going to be in a position somewhere in their life, whether it's in a normal, just a one-on-one friendship, where one can help lead the other.
That's really cool. I agree with you, Leon. I think it is so important to realize that and to actually apply that to your life. I think from my side, I've got one tip, one realization really that I've seen in the greatest leaders in my own personal life is that a leader doesn't wait for someone to ask for help. A leader sees when somebody needs help. A leader proactively goes and sees that that person is struggling, that person needs my assistance. I'm in a position where I can assist them, where it's not going to detract anything from my life. Even if it does a little bit, I know that the helping them in this specific situation is going to bring them closer to their dreams, to their hopes, to their goals that they've set out in life as well. And that's my only tip, right? Is being proactive about it, looking around, looking for opportunities to help those around you, as opposed to waiting and saying, yeah, but nobody ever asked me for help. You know, nobody ever comes to me and says, you know what, hey, Mono, please can you assist me with this? Or please can you help me with my finances? Or please can you help me with investments and how that works? Nobody ever comes to me, but rather going out and seeing that somebody is struggling, somebody doesn't know something. I'm in the position of, you know, maybe I've got a lot of knowledge on the subject matter. Maybe there's some experience that I've got that I can share with them. Maybe I can actually guide them and mentor them for a little while just to get them ahead. And understanding that what we've said in the past is that there's enough sun rays and sunlight on this planet for every single person. And that by helping someone get ahead does not mean that you're putting yourself behind, right? Not being scared to share that knowledge,
that's a good point.
But being proactive about it. Absolutely enjoyed this episode. If you guys out in the audience have enjoyed this content, and if you know a writer, or if you are a writer yourself, we do have our own blog. We are looking for someone who can assist with writing and transforming some of our content. If it's something that you want to explore, if it's something that you know someone else very close to you would like to explore, maybe to get some experience in it, reach out to us. Just head over to rltstudios.com. There's a contact us page. Reach out to us. Let us know. We're looking forward to hearing from you guys. Looking forward to seeing your creativity and how you're going to transform our topics. With that being said, everyone, thank you so much for joining this episode of the Real Life Tips podcast. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. This is me signing off, Mono.
This is Leon. Thank you very much for joining us on this episode. We will see you next week for another thrilling episode. This is me signing off. Cheers.
Bye. What's up, guys and girls? If you've derived some great value from our show thus far, please take a second to rate and review us on the platform that you're tuned in on. This will really help us to grow the show and reach more and more people, to spread the positivity and change more and more lives. So it will literally just take you a second to rate and review us, and who knows, perhaps you could directly be responsible for changing someone's life today. We look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Until then, cheers.